In the spring of 1944, the picturesque landscapes of Dalmatia, with its sun-drenched coastlines and rugged mountains, masked a grim reality. The Adriatic Sea had become a theater of war, where the beauty of nature contrasted sharply with the horrors of conflict. The region, rich in history and culture, was under German occupation, a situation that left its inhabitants in a state of constant anxiety and fear. The village of Klis, perched on a hill overlooking the coast, was a microcosm of this tension. Its narrow cobblestone streets wound their way through a community stifled by the presence of enemy forces. The German military had established a stronghold in the area, conducting regular patrols and imposing strict curfews, leaving the villagers to navigate a delicate balance between survival and resistance. Amidst this turmoil, Father Ante Gabric emerged as a figure of hope and defiance. A priest of the Franciscan order, he dedicated his life to serving the people of Klis, providing spiritual guidance and practical support to those in need. His monastery, a centuries-old structure built of local stone, stood as a testament to the resilience of the community. With its thick walls and secluded chambers, it offered a sense of safety, even as the world outside grew increasingly perilous. By the time the war raged on, the plight of Allied airmen shot down over the Adriatic became a pressing concern for Father Gabric. These men, far from their homes and caught in enemy territory, faced dire consequences if captured. The stories of their bravery and struggle reached the priest, igniting a spark of compassion within him. He understood that the airmen were not just soldiers, they were human beings, each with a family and a life waiting for them beyond the war. Father Gabric's decision to shelter these airmen was not made lightly. He was acutely aware of the risks involved not only to himself, but also to the villagers who might face severe repercussions for aiding the enemy. The German occupiers were known for their brutal reprisals against those suspected of harboring resistance fighters or Allied soldiers. Yet, the priest's unwavering faith and sense of duty compelled him to act. He believed that every life saved was a blow against the tyranny that sought to extinguish hope. As he prepared to welcome the airmen into his monastery, Father Gabric faced skepticism from some members of his congregation. The fear of discovery loomed large, and many questioned the wisdom of defying the occupiers. However, the priest's calm demeanor and steadfast conviction began to sway even the most doubtful among them. He emphasized the importance of compassion and humanity in times of crisis, urging them to remember their shared values and the greater good. The monastery soon transformed into a sanctuary, a hidden refuge where the airmen could find solace and recuperate. Father Gabric and a small group of trusted parishioners worked tirelessly to ensure that the airmen would be safe from the prying eyes of German patrols. They devised clever strategies to mislead the enemy, utilizing the geography of the region to their advantage. The rugged terrain, with its dense forests and steep hills, provided ample cover for those seeking to evade capture. During the days past, the airmen's arrival drew closer. Father Gabric's heart swelled with a mix of hope and trepidation. He understood that the stakes were high, and the path ahead would be fraught with danger. Yet, he remained resolute, driven by the belief that in saving others, he was standing up against the forces of oppression that threatened to engulf them all. To fully appreciate the significance of Father Ante Gabric's actions, it is essential to understand the broader context of World War II and the specific circumstances that shaped life in Dalmatia during this tumultuous period. The war had engulfed Europe since 1939, with the Axis powers, led by Nazi Germany, seeking to expand their control over vast territories. The Adriatic coast, strategically important for its shipping routes and military positioning, became a focal point for both Axis and Allied forces. By 1944, the tide of the war was beginning to turn. The Allies had achieved significant victories in North Africa and Italy, and the liberation of Europe was on the horizon. However, the German military remained a formidable presence in the Balkans, determined to maintain their grip on the region. The occupation of Dalmatia was characterized by harsh measures, including forced labor, confiscation of resources, and the suppression of dissent. The local population, already weary from years of conflict, faced the additional burden of living under constant surveillance and fear of reprisals. The village of Klis, with its strategic location overlooking the Adriatic Sea, was no exception to this reality. The German military established checkpoints and patrols, making it increasingly difficult for villagers to go about their daily lives. The once thriving marketplace fell silent, as fear replaced the vibrant exchanges of goods and services. Families struggled to put food on the table, and the sense of community that had defined Klis began to fray under the weight of occupation. Despite the oppressive atmosphere, a spirit of resistance simmered beneath the surface. Many villages, inspired by the bravery of Allied forces, began to organize themselves into small resistance groups. These clandestine networks operated in secrecy, gathering intelligence, sabotaging German supply lines, and providing aid to those in need. The local resistance was a patchwork of individuals from various backgrounds: farmers, laborers, and intellectuals united by a common goal, to reclaim their freedom. Father Gabric played a crucial role in this resistance effort. His position as a priest afforded him a certain degree of protection, allowing him to navigate the complexities of life under occupation. He used his influence to rally support for the Airmen and the resistance, fostering a sense of solidarity among the villages. His monastery became a hub of activity, where plans were made and resources were shared. The geography of Dalmatia, with its rugged mountains and hidden valleys, provided both challenges and opportunities for the resistance. The terrain was difficult to traverse, but it also offered numerous hiding places for those seeking to evade capture. Father Gabric and his parishioners utilized their knowledge of the land to create safe routes for the Airmen, ensuring that they could move undetected through the countryside. The arrival of the Airmen marked a turning point in the lives of the villages. It was a moment that transcended the boundaries of nationality and faith, uniting them in a shared struggle against oppression. The Airmen, Flight Lieutenant James Harrington and Sergeant William Collins, brought with them stories of bravery and sacrifice, reminding the villages that they were not alone in their fight. The bond that formed between the Airmen and Father Gabric was rooted in a mutual understanding of the horrors of war and the hope for a better future. As the Airmen settled into their new surroundings, they quickly became aware of the precariousness of their situation. The German patrols were relentless, scouring the countryside for any signs of resistance. The sound of marching boots and the clatter of weapons served as a constant reminder of the danger that lurked just beyond the monastery walls. Yet, despite the fear, the Airmen found solace in the camaraderie that developed between them and their hosts. Father Gabric's resourcefulness and unwavering faith became a source of strength for the Airmen. He devised clever strategies to mislead the Germans, using his position in the community to gather intelligence and divert attention away from the monastery. The villagers, inspired by Father Gabric's courage, rallied around the Airmen, providing food, shelter, and support in their time of need. In this context, the decision to shelter the Airmen was not just an act of defiance, it was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Father Gabric and the villagers of Klis embodied the belief that even in the darkest of times, compassion and solidarity could prevail. Their actions would have far-reaching consequences, not only for the Airmen but for the entire community, as they stood together against the forces of tyranny. As the days turned into weeks, the Airmen found themselves not only surviving but thriving in the sanctuary of the monastery. They forged deep connections with Father Gabric and the villagers, sharing stories, laughter, and a sense of purpose. The monastery became a symbol of hope, a place where the bonds of humanity transcended the boundaries of war. In the face of adversity, Father Gabric's unwavering faith and commitment to his fellow man illuminated a path forward. The Airmen, once strangers, became part of a larger narrative, a story of courage, compassion, and the enduring strength of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. As the weeks turned into months, the tension in Klis reached a fever pitch. The German patrols, aware of the possibility of Allied airmen in the area, intensified their efforts to root out any signs of resistance. The village, once a place of relative calm, became a hotbed of suspicion and fear. Father Gabric, acutely aware of the growing threat, redoubled his efforts to protect the airmen. His position as a priest afforded him a certain degree of protection, but it was a fragile shield, one that could be shattered at any moment. The Germans, ever vigilant, were not above using any means necessary to achieve their ends. The airmen, confined to the monastery, watched with bated breath as the patrols scoured the village. The sound of boots on cobblestones, the bark of orders in German, and the occasional gunshot were constant reminders of the danger that lurked just beyond their sanctuary. Each day was a test of nerves, a battle against the fear that threatened to overwhelm them. Father Gabric, undeterred by the mounting pressure, continued to devise strategies to mislead the Germans. He used his knowledge of the local terrain to create false trails, leading the patrols away from the monastery and into the surrounding hills. His efforts were aided by a network of villages who, despite the risks, were willing to lend their support. The tension came to a head one fateful afternoon in late June when a German patrol arrived at the monastery gates. The airmen, hidden in their chamber, listened as the soldiers demanded entry, their voices harsh and insistent. Father Gabric, his heart pounding, met them at the door, his demeanor calm and composed. With a mixture of charm and authority, Father Gabric engaged the soldiers in conversation, deflecting their questions with practiced ease. He offered them food and drink, a gesture of hospitality that belied the tension simmering beneath the surface. The soldiers, perhaps swayed by his sincerity, eventually departed, leaving the airmen to breathe a sigh of relief. The encounter served as a stark reminder of the precariousness of their situation. The Germans were relentless in their pursuit, and the threat of discovery loomed ever larger. Yet, through it all, Father Gabric remained steadfast, his faith in the righteousness of his cause unshaken. As the days wore on, the airmen clung to the hope that their ordeal would soon come to an end. They knew that the success of their extraction hinged on their ability to remain undetected, a task that grew increasingly difficult with each passing day. Yet, they drew strength from the knowledge that they were not alone, that they had an ally in Father Gabric who was willing to risk everything for their safety. The bond between the airmen and Father Gabric, forged in the crucible of war, was a testament to the power of human compassion. In the face of overwhelming odds, they found solace in one another, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is light to be found. As the summer sun beat down on Klis, the airmen began to feel the weight of their confinement. The walls of the monastery, no longer a sanctuary, felt like a prison. They longed for the freedom of the skies, to soar above the clouds, far from the dangers that threatened them. Father Gabric, sensing their restlessness, sought to provide them with moments of normalcy amidst the chaos. He would often bring them books, tales of adventure and heroism, stories that transported them far from the grim realities of war. They would gather in the hidden chamber, sharing laughter and camaraderie, a brief respite from the tension that enveloped them. But even in these moments of levity, the specter of danger loomed large. The airmen were acutely aware that their time was running out. The German patrols were becoming more aggressive, their searches more thorough. Each day brought new reports of arrests and disappearances, a chilling reminder of the stakes involved. In the midst of this uncertainty, Father Gabric remained a steady presence. He would often gather the airmen for prayer, seeking divine guidance and protection for their mission. The airmen, though not particularly religious, found comfort in these rituals, a sense of unity that transcended their individual fears. As the days turned into weeks, the airmen began to form a deeper bond with Father Gabric. They shared their hopes and dreams, their fears and regrets, forging a connection that went beyond the circumstances that had brought them together. They became brothers in arms, united by a common purpose and a shared understanding of the fragility of life. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the monastery, Father Gabric gathered the airmen for a meeting. He had received word from the resistance that a plan was being devised for their extraction. The airmen listened intently, their hearts racing at the prospect of escape. Father Gabric explained the details of the plan, outlining the route they would take to reach the extraction point. It was a treacherous journey, fraught with danger, but it was their best chance for freedom. The airmen exchanged glances, a mixture of excitement and apprehension in their eyes. In the days leading up to the extraction, Father Gabric worked tirelessly to ensure that everything was in place. He coordinated with the resistance, gathering intelligence on German patrol movements and securing safe passage for the airmen. The villagers rallied around the cause, their support unwavering in the face of danger. As the night of the extraction approached, the airmen felt a sense of urgency. They knew that the window for escape was closing, and the risks were mounting. Every moment spent in hiding was a moment closer to discovery. Yet, they remained resolute, buoyed by the knowledge that they had an ally in Father Gabric and the villagers who had risked everything to aid them. On the eve of their planned escape, the airmen gathered in the hidden chamber, their hearts heavy with the weight of the unknown. They shared stories of their lives before the war, their dreams for the future, and the bonds they had forged during their time together. It was a moment of reflection, a chance to acknowledge the journey that had brought him to this point. As they prepared to leave the monastery behind, Father Gabric joined them, his presence a reminder of the sacrifices made on their behalf. He offered words of encouragement, urging them to remain strong and steadfast in their resolve. The airmen, filled with gratitude, promised to carry the spirit of their shared experience with them, no matter where their journey took them. As darkness fell, the airmen felt a mixture of anticipation and dread. They knew that the path ahead would be fraught with danger, but they also understood that this was their chance for freedom. With Father Gabric by their side, they stepped into the night, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the summer of 1944 unfolded, the Adriatic coast was a theater of shadows and whispers, where the stakes were as high as the cliffs that lined its shores. The monastery in Klis, nestled amidst the rugged Dalmatian landscape, had become a sanctuary for 2 British airmen, thanks to the unwavering courage of Father Ante Gabric. The airmen, Flight Lieutenant James Harrington and Sergeant William Collins, had grown accustomed to the rhythm of their hidden existence, but the constant threat of discovery by German patrols weighed heavily on their minds. In late June, a message arrived that would change everything. It was delivered by a trusted member of the local resistance, a network of brave souls who risked their lives to aid the Allied cause. The message was brief but clear. A Royal Navy extraction was planned for the night of July 1. The airmen were to be ready to leave the monastery under the cover of darkness, making their way to a secluded cove where a small vessel would await their arrival. The plan was fraught with peril. The German presence in the region had intensified, with patrols becoming more frequent and checkpoints more numerous. Father Gabric knew that any misstep could lead to disaster, not only for the airmen but for the entire village. Yet, he also understood that this was their best chance for escape. The airmen, though anxious, were resolute. They had come to trust Father Gabric implicitly, and his calm demeanor in the face of danger bolstered their spirits. In the days leading up to the extraction, preparations were made with meticulous care. Father Gabric coordinated with the resistance to ensure that the path to the coast was clear. The airmen were briefed on the route they would take, a winding trail through the hills that offered both cover and concealment. They practiced moving silently, their senses attuned to the sounds of the night, ready to react at a moment's notice. As the evening of July 1 approached, the airmen gathered their few belongings, their hearts pounding with anticipation. Father Gabric led them in a quiet prayer, seeking strength and protection for the journey ahead. The airmen, though not particularly religious, found solace in the ritual, a moment of calm before the storm. As darkness fell, the trio slipped out of the monastery, their footsteps muffled by the soft earth. The village lay silent, its inhabitants unaware of the drama unfolding in their midst. Father Gabric led the way, his familiarity with the terrain guiding them through the shadows. The airmen followed closely, their senses heightened, every rustle of leaves and distant sound a reminder of the danger that lurked nearby. The path to the coast was treacherous, a narrow trail that wound its way through dense underbrush and rocky outcrops. The moon, a sliver in the night sky, offered little light, but Father Gabric's sure-footedness inspired confidence. As they neared the cove, the sound of the sea grew louder, a rhythmic pulse that matched the beating of their hearts. At the edge of the cove, they paused, scanning the horizon for any sign of the Royal Navy vessel. The minutes stretched into an eternity, each second fraught with tension. Then, as if summoned by their collective will, a small silhouette appeared on the water, a dark shape against the lighter expanse of the sea. It was their salvation, a vessel sent to carry them to safety. The airmen exchanged a glance, a silent acknowledgement of the moment's gravity. They had come so far, endured so much, and now, freedom was within their grasp. Father Gabric, his face illuminated by the faint glow of the moon, nodded, urging them forward. The airmen moved quickly, their feet finding purchase on the rocky shore as they made their way to the waiting boat. The vessel's crew, a group of seasoned sailors, helped him aboard with practiced efficiency. There was no time for farewells, no words to express the depth of gratitude they felt for Father Gabric's courage and sacrifice. As the boat pulled away from the shore, the airmen looked back, their eyes meeting those of the priest who had risked everything for their freedom. Father Gabric stood alone on the shore, his figure silhouetted against the night sky. He watched as the vessel disappeared into the darkness, carrying with it the hopes and dreams of two men who had become more than just allies. They were friends, bound by a shared experience that transcended the boundaries of nationality and faith. As the first light of dawn began to break, the airmen knew that their journey was far from over. The sea, vast and unpredictable, lay before them, a reminder of the challenges yet to come. But for the first time in weeks, they felt a sense of hope, buoyed by the knowledge that they were not alone in their fight against tyranny. The night of July 1, 1944, marked a pivotal moment not only for Flight Lieutenant James Harrington and Sergeant William Collins but also for the village of Klis and the surrounding region of Dalmatia. As the Royal Navy vessel slipped silently into the waters of the Adriatic, the airmen felt the weight of their escape settle heavily upon them. They were acutely aware that their journey had consequences that extended far beyond their own lives. The actions of Father Ante Gabric and the villagers who had aided them would reverberate through the community, shaping the course of their lives in ways they could scarcely imagine. As the vessel navigated the calm waters, the airmen exchanged glances, their hearts racing with a mix of relief and apprehension. They had escaped the immediate threat of capture, but the reality of their situation loomed large. The Germans were relentless in their pursuit of resistance, and the risk of retaliation against the villages who had sheltered them was ever present. The airmen understood that their survival came at a cost, and they were haunted by the thought of what might happen to those left behind. Back in Klis, Father Gabric remained acutely aware of the stakes. The villagers had rallied around him, their collective courage bolstered by the knowledge that they were part of a larger fight against oppression. Yet, as the airmen sailed away, a palpable tension permeated the air. The priest knew that the German occupiers would not take kindly to the defiance displayed by the villagers. The consequences of harboring Allied soldiers could be dire, and Father Gabric felt the weight of responsibility pressing down upon him. In the days following the airmen's escape, the village braced itself for the inevitable repercussions. German patrols intensified, their presence a constant reminder of the dangers that lurked in the shadows. The villages formerly filled with hope faced a grim reality. They had acted out of compassion and solidarity, but the specter of retribution loomed large. Rumors circulated of reprisals against those suspected of aiding the enemy, and fear began to seep into the hearts of even the most steadfast supporters of the resistance. Father Gabric, determined to protect his community, took it upon himself to shield the villages from the wrath of the occupiers. He organized meetings, urging the residents to remain vigilant and united. He reminded them of the importance of their actions, of the lives they had saved, and the moral imperative to stand against tyranny. Yet, as the weeks passed, the tension in Klis grew palpable. The villagers were torn between the desire to resist and the instinct for self-preservation. The turning point came on a fateful afternoon when a German patrol entered the village, their presence a harbinger of the consequences that had been feared. The soldiers, armed and menacing, began questioning the villagers, their eyes scanning for any signs of defiance. Father Gabric, sensing the danger, stepped forward to confront the soldiers, his heart pounding in his chest. He engaged them in conversation, attempting to deflect their attention from the villagers and the sanctuary they had provided. The encounter was tense, a delicate dance between authority and defiance. The soldiers, suspicious yet intrigued by the priest's demeanor, allowed him to speak. Father Gabric invoked the sanctity of his role as a priest, emphasizing the importance of faith and compassion in times of war. He spoke of the need for unity and understanding, his words a thin veil over the reality of the situation. The soldiers, perhaps swayed by his sincerity, eventually departed, leaving the villagers to breathe a sigh of relief. But the reprieve was short-lived. The German presence in the region intensified, and the villages faced increasing scrutiny. Father Gabric's efforts to protect them were met with skepticism from some who feared the consequences of their actions. The moral dilemmas faced by the villagers became increasingly complex. They had acted out of compassion, but now they were forced to confront the harsh realities of war and the potential cost of their defiance. As the summer wore on, the airmen's escape became a distant memory, overshadowed by the growing threat of German reprisals. The village of Klis, once a place of hope and solidarity, became a hotbed of fear and suspicion. Neighbors turned against one another, their trust eroded by the specter of betrayal. Father Gabric, though steadfast in his resolve, felt the weight of despair settling over the community. The consequences of the airmen's escape rippled through Klis, leaving scars that would take years to heal. The villagers who had once stood united in their defiance now found themselves grappling with the moral complexities of their actions. They had risked everything to save lives, yet the cost of their compassion was becoming increasingly apparent. The struggle between the desire to resist and the instinct for self-preservation created a rift that threatened to tear the community apart. In the face of adversity, Father Gabric remained a beacon of hope. He continued to preach the importance of compassion and solidarity, urging the villagers to remember the lives they had saved and the moral imperative to stand against tyranny. Yet, as the weeks turned into months, the toll of the war weighed heavily upon him. He witnessed the erosion of trust and the growing divisions within the community, and he feared that the very fabric of their resistance was unraveling. The turning point had come, and the consequences of the airmen's escape were now inescapable. The struggle for survival had become a daily reality for the villagers of Klis, and the moral dilemmas they faced would shape their lives for years to come. Father Gabric, though resolute in his faith, could not ignore the shadows that loomed over his beloved community. The fight against tyranny was far from over, and the cost of compassion was becoming increasingly clear. As the summer of 1944 unfolded, the aftermath of Flight Lieutenant James Harrington and Sergeant William Collins' escape began to take shape in the village of Klis. The airmen had found safety, but the villagers who had risked everything to shelter them now faced a new reality, one marked by fear, suspicion, and moral uncertainty. The transformation of Klis from a place of hope to one of trepidation was a testament to the complexities of war and the resilience of the human spirit. In the weeks following the airmen's departure, the German presence in the village intensified. Patrols became more frequent, and the atmosphere grew increasingly oppressive. The villagers, once united in their defiance, found themselves grappling with the consequences of their actions. The moral dilemmas they faced were profound, as they weighed the cost of their compassion against the instinct for self-preservation. The fear of retribution loomed large, casting a shadow over their collective spirit. Father Gabric, acutely aware of the toll the war was taking on his community, became a source of strength and guidance. He organized gatherings, encouraging the villagers to share their fears and concerns. In these moments of vulnerability, he reminded them of the importance of their actions, of the lives they had saved, and the moral imperative to stand against tyranny. His words resonated deeply, offering solace in a time of uncertainty. Yet, as the weeks turned into months, the villagers began to feel the weight of their choices. The fear of discovery and the potential consequences of their defiance created a rift within the community. Some villagers, driven by self-preservation, began to distance themselves from the resistance, while others remained steadfast in their commitment to the cause. The struggle between loyalty and fear became a defining characteristic of life in Klis, and the bonds that had once united them began to fray. Father Gabric, though resolute in his faith, felt the strain of the situation. He witnessed the erosion of trust and the growing divisions within the community, and he feared that the very fabric of their resistance was unraveling. The moral complexities of their actions weighed heavily on him, as he grappled with the consequences of their defiance. He understood that the fight against tyranny was not just a military endeavor but a deeply personal struggle that required unwavering courage and compassion. In the midst of this turmoil, the villages began to transform. The experience of harboring the Airmen had awakened a sense of agency within them, a realization that they could make a difference in the face of oppression. Despite the fear that gripped them, many villagers began to engage in acts of resistance, whether through small acts of defiance or by providing support to the local resistance network. They understood that their actions, though fraught with risk, were part of a larger struggle for freedom and justice. While the war continued to rage, the villagers of Klis found themselves at a crossroads. They could either succumb to fear and isolation or embrace the courage that had defined their actions in the past. Father Gabric, ever the beacon of hope, encouraged them to choose the latter. He reminded them that their strength lay not only in their individual actions but in their collective resolve to stand against tyranny. The transformation of Klis was not without its challenges. The villagers faced the constant threat of German reprisals, and the fear of betrayal lingered in the air. Yet, as they navigated the complexities of their situation, they began to forge a new identity as a community of resistance. They learned to rely on one another, to trust in their shared purpose, and to find strength in their collective struggle. As the summer turned to autumn, the villagers of Klis emerged from the shadows of fear, their spirits rekindled by the knowledge that they were part of something larger than themselves. The experience of harboring the Airmen had transformed them, awakening a sense of agency and purpose that would guide them through the challenges ahead. They understood that the fight against tyranny was not just a battle for survival but a moral imperative that demanded their unwavering commitment. The aftermath of the Airmen's escape had reshaped the village of Klis, forging a new identity rooted in courage, compassion, and resilience. Father Gabric, though weary from the weight of responsibility, found renewed strength in the transformation of his community. He witnessed the villagers embracing their roles as agents of change, standing together in the face of adversity. Their journey was far from over, but they had emerged from the shadows, ready to confront the challenges that lay ahead. In the months that followed, the villagers of Klis continued to support the resistance, their actions a testament to the enduring power of human compassion. They became known as a symbol of defiance against oppression, their story inspiring others to join Norway's fight for freedom. The legacy of Father Gabric and the Airmen he had sheltered became a rallying cry for those who sought to resist tyranny, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there was always hope. As the conflict neared the villagers of Klis emerged from the shadows, forever changed by their experiences. They had faced the moral complexities of their actions, navigated the challenges of fear and suspicion, and emerged as a united front against tyranny. The transformation of Klis was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, there is always the possibility of redemption and hope. In the years following the of World War II, the story of Father Ante Gabric and the British airmen he saved became a beacon of hope and inspiration for many. It was a tale of courage and faith, a testament to the power of human compassion in the face of oppression. As the world emerged from the shadows of war, the legacy of Father Gabric's actions resonated far beyond the borders of Dalmatia, touching the hearts of those who valued freedom and humanity. The monastery in Klis, once a place of refuge for the Airmen, transformed into a symbol of resistance and faith. It stood as a reminder of the sacrifices made during those dark times, a testament to the resilience of those who had risked everything to stand up against tyranny. Visitors from around the world came to pay their respects, drawn by the story of a humble priest who had defied the odds to save lives. The monastery became a pilgrimage site for those seeking to understand the depths of human courage and the lengths to which individuals would go to protect one another. In the years immediately following the war, Father Gabric continued his ministry in Klis, dedicating himself to rebuilding the community that had endured so much during the conflict. The village, once marked by fear and oppression, began to heal, with Father Gabric at the forefront of efforts to restore hope and faith among the residents. His actions during the war had not only saved lives but had also fostered a sense of unity and resilience among the villagers. They had come to understand that their collective strength could overcome even the most formidable of adversities. As the years passed, the Airmen, Flight Lieutenant James Harrington and Sergeant William Collins, returned to their lives in Britain, but the impact of their experiences in Dalmatia remained with them. They became advocates for the resistance, sharing their story with others and inspiring them to stand up against tyranny. Their accounts of Father Gabric's bravery and the villagers' support served as powerful reminders of the importance of compassion and solidarity in times of crisis. The Airmen's journey did not end with their return to Allied territory. They became involved in various charitable organizations and initiatives aimed at supporting war-torn regions and promoting peace. Their experiences had instilled in him a deep sense of responsibility to honor the sacrifices made on their behalf. They understood that their story was just one of many, a testament to the resilience and courage of those who fought against tyranny. In 1946, both Harrington and Collins were invited to speak at a gathering of veterans and resistance fighters in London. Their testimony about the events in Klis captivated audiences, drawing attention to the often overlooked contributions of ordinary citizens during the war. They spoke of Father Gabric, the villagers, and the network of resistance fighters who had risked their lives to aid them. Their words resonated deeply, inspiring others to reflect on the importance of standing up for what is right, even in the face of overwhelming odds. As the years turned into decades, Father Gabric's legacy continued to grow. In 1950, he was awarded the title of Righteous Among the Nations by Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Memorial in Israel, for his acts of bravery in saving lives during the war. This honor recognized not only his courage but also the broader impact of his actions on the lives of those he had sheltered. The recognition brought international attention to the story of Klis, further solidifying its place in the annals of history. The villagers of Klis, too, were celebrated for their bravery and resilience. In 1955, a monument was erected in the village square, honoring those who had risked their lives to support the Allied cause. The monument served as a reminder of the sacrifices made during the war and the importance of standing together in the face of oppression. Each year, on the anniversary of the Airmen's extraction, the village held a commemorative ceremony, inviting locals and visitors alike to remember the courage of Father Gabric and the villagers who had aided him. As the decades passed, the story of Father Gabric and the Airmen became a part of the cultural fabric of the region, a tale passed down from generation to generation. It was a story that reminded people of the importance of standing up for what is right, of the power of compassion, and of the enduring strength of the human spirit. Schools began to incorporate the story into their curricula, teaching students about the moral lessons embedded in the narrative. The tale of Klis became a source of pride for the community, a reminder of their shared history and the values that had guided them through the darkest of times. In the late 20th century, as the world grappled with new conflicts and challenges, the legacy of Father Gabric and the Airmen took on renewed significance. The rise of nationalism and the resurgence of authoritarian regimes in various parts of the world prompted many to reflect on the lessons of the past. The story of Klis served as a powerful reminder of the importance of standing up against tyranny and the impact that individuals can have in the fight for justice and freedom. In 1994, on the 50th anniversary of the Airmen's extraction, a documentary was produced, chronicling the events that had transpired in Klis. The film featured interviews with surviving villagers, historians, and the airmen themselves, weaving together personal accounts and historical context to create a compelling narrative. The documentary was screened at film festivals around the world, garnering critical acclaim and further cementing the story's place in history. It sparked discussions about the role of ordinary citizens in times of war and the moral imperatives that guide human behavior in the face of adversity. As the 21st century unfolded, the story of Father Gabric and the Airmen continued to inspire new generations. In 2004, a group of students from the University of Zagreb undertook a project to create a digital archive dedicated to the events in Klis. They interviewed locals, collected photographs, and compiled documents related to the resistance efforts during the war. The archive served as a valuable resource for researchers and historians, ensuring that the legacy of Father Gabric and the villages would not be forgotten. In 2014, on the 70th anniversary of the Airmen's escape, a commemorative event was held in Klis, drawing attendees from around the world. The event featured speeches from historians, veterans, and descendants of those involved in the resistance. The Airmen, now in their 90s, attended the ceremony, their presence a testament to the enduring impact of their experiences. As they spoke of Father Gabric and the villages, their words resonated with the audience, reminding everyone of the power of compassion and the importance of standing up for what is right. In the years that followed, the story of Klis continued to be shared through various mediums, including books, plays, and art exhibitions. Each retelling brought new perspectives and insights, ensuring that the legacy of Father Gabric and the Airmen would live on for generations to come. The narrative became a source of inspiration for those fighting against oppression in contemporary contexts, serving as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there are those who are willing to stand up for justice and humanity. Today, Father Ante Gabric is remembered not only as a priest but as a hero whose legacy of courage continues to resonate in the hearts of those who value freedom and humanity. His story serves as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there are those who are willing to stand up for what is right, to risk everything for the sake of others. The Airmen, too, are celebrated for their bravery and resilience, their experiences a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit. The legacy of Father Gabric and the Airmen he saved is a testament to the power of human compassion and the resilience of the human spirit. It is a story that continues to inspire, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming odds, there is always hope. As we reflect on the events of the past, we are reminded of the importance of standing up for what is right, of the power of compassion, and of the enduring strength of the human spirit. In a world that often seems divided and fraught with conflict, the story of Klis serves as a beacon of hope, a reminder that the actions of individuals can make a profound difference. It encourages us to look beyond our differences and to recognize our shared humanity, to stand together in the face of adversity, and to fight for a better world for all.